Hello again. So we're here today with Shaun Morris, and welcome to the chair, the hot seat. Now, Shaun was retired after serving as the commander in the Air Force Life Cycle Management Center, and I think simultaneously you were also the program executive officer for the Rapid Sustainment Office in the Air Force. So this is a big job that you had, and thank you for being here, following up, continuing to serve by helping us understand what went on during that time. So how many of MilAMs is this for you? How many times have you been here?
Awesome. So it's very, very exciting to be back. So the last time I was here, I was in uniform.
Yes.
In the role you just described, and now I'm back, not in uniform anymore.
Different uniform.
A different uniform, but it's amazing how much it's grown, how much bigger it's gotten in the last 3 or 4 years since I was here the last time, and so it's exciting to be back and exciting to see all the progress that's happening.
I'm glad you're here too. It's good that you're still continuing to add your voice to the mix here, because the experience that you gained, we really need it right now. So let's get to it. I've got a couple questions I'm going to take you through, and let's just let it flow. So the Air Force has the highest standard possible for airworthiness, things falling out of the sky. So a part that's made there has to meet very high standards, right? So let's talk a little bit about decisions and how decisions get made, because you used to do that all the time. So when the Air Force decides to rely on a technology like additive manufacturing for sustainment, what's the real yes gate? How do you get to yes? Like, who owns the acceptance authority, and what evidence do you need to make that decision?
Yeah, so like everything in defense acquisition, the answer always is it depends.
It depends.
And it depends a little bit on the complexity, but if we start with the most complex from an Air Force perspective, those are flight critical parts. That decision authority resides with the Airworthiness Authority, which is the head of engineering at Air Force Lifecycle Management Center. And so today that's Miss Lily Arcusa who runs that job. Which is done in conjunction with the commander of Air Force Materiel Command. So that's where the ultimate decision gate resides, and she has an entire team that is solely responsible for working airworthiness decisions
gets through the process.
To include AM. Now, as you work your way down the chain for parts that perhaps aren't considered flight critical, that don't have to go through that authority normally resides with the chief engineer for the individual weapon system that's looking to apply a part. So for an F-16 as an example, it would be the chief engineer in the F-16 program office. Sometimes that authority can actually reside lower for even less critical parts. Say it's something that could be met with a plastic or a polymer.
Yes.
Those decisions can be delegated even further down. But for us, right today, the biggest challenge for the Air Force, where the real money is in terms of being able to leverage additive to make a difference in sustainment and supply support, is really how can we get through that qualification process faster for those flight critical parts that have to go through the airworthiness process.
Well, of course, America Makes is funded through a contract that the Air Force manages. So we have become keenly aware and tied into the way the Air Force thinks about these things. And so it is the highest test, right? And yet we still have to soldier on and qualify parts at different levels of risk. But I mean, when you think about the sustainment workflow, we still think, and I think you would agree, that additive is still one of the best uses for sustainment. But across that sustainment workflow, where does additive manufacturing most often stall? Is it the technical data? Is it the filing? Is it, contracting? I mean, where do you see it stalling in the rapid sustainment sphere of influence?
Yeah, so I agree with you. There has always been this great promise of additive manufacturing, that additive manufacturing, can be responsive, can address these supply gaps that we have, can rapidly field new parts when we need them. And we have yet to really realize that promise. And there have been a number of limiting factors in the AM space that have kept us from doing that. A few years back, you might recall, the Rapid Sustainment Office actually ran an additive manufacturing Olympics.
I remember that.
Back in 2020.
Yep.
And at the time, we went through an analysis to try to figure out what are all of the critical constraints that are keeping us from going faster. And then we ran experiments on all of those. It's very, very interesting today. We did not run an experiment on certification. And the reason we didn't run an experiment on certification at the time is probably twofold. One, there were so many other limitations that were ahead of it in the process chain, and two, it was considered a little bit of a government thing.
Right.
The reality today is we have worked our way through a lot of those constraints.
We're there now.
Right? The ability to accurately 3D scan parts, the ability to create technical data packages, the ability to accurately build the parts. Right, we've worked through a lot of those constraints, and we find ourselves now, I think, most limited. The most significant constraint that exists today now is the ability to quickly certify those parts for use. And that process today takes way too long, and requires a significant amount of data. And there are reasons for some of that are inherent in the process, but we really need to find ways, if we're going to realize that promise of additive, to me, this is the frontier now that we need to defeat.
I couldn't agree with you more. I think every other conversation you have at this conference and any other additive conferences, how do we get these things qualified? And then even the word qualified versus certified versus, you have to choose your words carefully. So speaking about, qualification triggers and your view as an, RSO, PEO, what should we qualify to scale faster? Printers, processes or each individual part, or what risk trade-offs does that choice create?
Yeah, so it's a great question. So when I was at the RSO, we were very much still in the individual part qualification world, right? We would build a part, and then that part we would have to do all of the testing to get that qualified. We were trying to, while I was there, evolve that into classes of parts, right? If I can use a certain type of printer with a certain type of material, then I can qualify a certain class of parts, that I can use the output of that process within this range of things to be able to do it faster. I think where we eventually need to get is even beyond that, right? Which is get to the point that if I can qualify a set of printers using certain materials, and I can now do in-process checks to make sure, right, though that set of printers is operating within a certain set of constraints, the material is within a certain set of constraints, that whatever comes out of the back end of that, is okay. And that's where I really need to be able to get to. The problem is we still, have so much variation that exists inside of powders, inside of materials, inside of machines, that you still end up, to many cases, from a risk tolerance perspective for the engineers, that I still end up in a part-by-part kind of evaluation. Eventually, I'm going to collect enough data that's going to allow me to move past that, but I don't think we're there yet. But that's where we have to get. We have to get to similar to what we do in traditional manufacturing, that I've gotten to the point now that I know if I send this part here or this part here, that whatever comes out of that, because I'm using the same material and the same types of machines, is generally going to be the same.
Yeah, you're right. We're not quite there, but I feel that folks are ready to try to make those enterprise level solutions happen. And when you think about the ability on the digital twin side to keep that data and have it and analyze it before a part gets fully certified, there's really, I'm sure there's reasons, but it seems like we have a lot of what we need. We just have to pull the trigger on doing it and really setting up that process and really, rigorously going for it,
Yes.
But having said that, there's certainly a difference between what the OIB can do and what the overall defense industrial base can do. And certainly a challenge has been our defense industrial base, which has been mostly small businesses, is shrinking. I think something like 40% in the last 10 years. There's a lot of reasons. The DoD's not buying. And Department of War, Department of Defense previously has not been buying that much. We've had a lot of retirements, technology changes. We don't have a supply base the same that we did before. So when I think about what small businesses working inside that Department of War supply chain, I I think that they need as much help as ever to be relevant and to be able to work. So could you explore things that you have done or are doing in the present moment to get those small businesses in that supply chain?
Yeah, I think that's a really good point. So if you look at the new acquisition transformation strategy that just came out,
Yes,
heavy
yes.
emphasis on leveraging commercial, which by definition means a heavy emphasis on leveraging small businesses in many ways. So outside of what I did when I was active duty, since I've retired, I've been working with a company called Small Business Consulting Corporation, which essentially
yes.
serves as a technology matchmaker for government customers,
That's
where the
good.
government customers will identify a gap or a need, and then SBCC will go out through a tech scouting process and find small commercial businesses that have potential solutions right to that issue, and there's a perfect synergy here.
Yes.
Because one of the gaps that Global Strike Command, in partnership with the Rapid Sustainment Office, has identified is the certification process. And so they're in the process of getting ready to run a technology showcase in May, inviting small businesses, commercial companies to come in to share their ideas on how we might be able to accelerate the certification process based on their commercial experience. And so, there's opportunities, I think, again, for folks that are perhaps even here at this conference, right, that perhaps have seen or have great ideas on how we can do this better, that are having a hard time getting their voice heard, right? There are places now, and I think the department is becoming more and more open to hearing those voices and then leveraging them.
I think you're right, because I do think the game has changed a little bit, ever so slightly, and there's a new crop that we need to get in the mix. And so thank you for sharing that information. I think that'll be very helpful to our viewers, and maybe you can put some information in the social media link so that they can find you.
That would be awesome. I'd be happy to do
well,
that.
I'm really glad to have seen you again after not seeing you for a few years, Shaun. So thanks for being here with us and sharing your knowledge, and I look forward to what's next.
Great, thank you.
Have a great show.
Thanks.